The gates of the hidden palace shook violently in the dead of night. Elara was already awake, already running barefoot down the stone corridor before the second crash landed. She hit the iron door with both palms, breathing hard, pressing her ear against the cold metal. Silence. Then a voice, soft, deliberate, ancient as the roots beneath the mirewood itself. Open the gate, child. I have been standing here since before your grandfather was born. I am not here to harm. I am here to warn. Elara stepped back slowly. The gate swung open on its own. The woman who entered was small and cloaked, her face barely visible beneath layers of silver fabric. But her eyes were enormous and luminous, like two moons trapped inside a human skull. Who are you? Elara whispered. I am the Elder Moth, the woman said. And you are running out of time. But we must go back. Back to where it all began. In the kingdom of Valdris, where silver rivers kissed ancient mountains and the people sang at harvest time, a king and queen had prayed for a child for 11 long years. When their daughter finally arrived, small, rosy-cheeked, already staring at the world with those wide, curious eyes, the king wept openly in the throne room and did not apologize for it. They named her Elara. Light. The naming ceremony drew the entire kingdom. Flowers lined every street. Children sat on rooftops to catch a glimpse of the royal carriage. Even the oldest farmers came down from the hillsides, leaning on their walking sticks, smiling at something they could not explain. It was during the celebration, when laughter filled the great hall and the wine flowed freely, that the Elder Moth appeared. She moved through the crowd without touching anyone, leaving a trail of hushed silence behind her. She stopped before the royal cradle, looked down at the sleeping infant, and smiled, but it was the kind of smile that carried weather inside it. She will be loved by many, the Elder Moth announced. Her kindness will outlast kingdoms. Her beauty will cross borders. But greatness casts a long shadow, and in that shadow, envy grows. The hall went quiet. Guard her, the Elder Moth said, turning to the king. Or the world will devour what it cannot possess. She was gone before anyone thought to respond. The queen reached into the cradle and held Elara against her chest so tightly the infant made a small sound of protest. The king said nothing for a very long time. Then he said, build me a palace in the mirewood. Deep enough that no one finds it. Strong enough that nothing breaks through. You would hide our daughter from the world? The queen asked, her voice breaking. I would hide her from what the world would do to her, he replied. Elara grew up behind white stone walls and climbing roses, in a palace that had everything except people. She had books and gardens and loyal servants who loved her quietly and answered her questions carefully. But she felt the shape of the emptiness. She felt it the way you feel a missing tooth with your tongue, constantly, involuntarily, again and again. Is the world truly so dangerous? She asked her oldest servant, a woman named Bet, one afternoon when Elara was 12 and had climbed to the highest window to watch birds disappear into the tree line. Bet was quiet for a long moment. For someone like you, my lady, she finally said, the world is not dangerous. But the people in it can be. Elara turned from the window. That sounds like the same thing. Bet had no answer for that. On Elara's 16th birthday, she woke before dawn and walked barefoot to the garden, the way she always did when something inside her felt too large for sleep. That was when she saw him. He stood at the palace gate, a peacock unlike any creature she had ever seen in her books. His feathers were deep sapphire at the base, shifting to molten gold at the tips, and they shimmered faintly in the gray early light as if lit from within. The guards raised their spears. "Let him in," Elara said. "My lady, we don't know what." Let him in. The peacock walked through the open gate with the unhurried confidence of someone who had been expected. He stopped 3 feet from Elara, tilted his magnificent crowned head, and spoke in a voice like wind moving through silk. "I have been looking for you for a very long time, princess." Elara stared at him. Then she sat down cross-legged on the garden path, eye level with the bird, and said, "Then you had better start explaining." His name was Oren. He told her he had been sent, not by any king or council, but by something older than both. He had been bound to her bloodline since before her birth, tasked to find her when she was ready. He told her the world beyond the Meyerwood was vast and complicated and worth knowing. He told her she had been hidden long enough. "My parents were trying to protect me," Elara said carefully. "Yes," Oren agreed. But you cannot spend your whole life being protected from living." Elara looked at him for a long time. Then she laughed, clear and bright as wind chimes in an open courtyard. "I think," she said, "that I have needed someone to say that for a very long time." Oren's feathers glowed gold. From that day, loneliness left the hidden palace entirely. Elara had a voice that answered her questions honestly. She had a friend who saw her completely. She had, for the first time, someone worth staying awake for. And somewhere beyond the Meyerwood, in the kingdom of Solhaven, a young prince named Selim was hearing whispers of a hidden princess, and feeling, without understanding why, that those whispers were meant for him. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, carried by a royal envoy in blue and gold livery who looked thoroughly exhausted and mildly bewildered at having navigated the Meyerwood without losing his mind entirely. The chest he brought contained amber jewels that caught the light like trapped sunsets, a bundle of night-blooming flowers that smelled of distant rain, and a letter, handwritten, no royal formality, just honest words on cream paper. Elara read it standing up, Oren at her shoulder. "I do not know you," the letter said. "I have only heard your name in the mouths of merchants and travelers, and seen your face in a painting that I commissioned because I could not stop thinking about someone I have never met. I know that is strange. I am told I should have led with the jewels. But I thought honesty was worth more. I hope you agree. Selim. Elara lowered the letter slowly. "Well," she said. "Indeed," said Oren. "Is he worthy?" She asked, turning to look at him. Oren studied the portrait that had arrived alongside the chest, a young man with steady eyes and an expression that suggested he was trying very hard not to appear nervous. "His eyes hold no cruelty," Oren said finally. He is worth meeting. Elara smiled, the quiet kind, the kind that meant something real. Then I suppose it is time I saw the world. She should have noticed Seraphina's hands shaking as she packed Elara's trunks. She should have noticed the way her attendant's jaw tightened each time someone mentioned Prince Selim's letter, or the way her eyes followed the amber jewels with a hunger that had nothing to do with beauty. But Elara had never been taught to suspect the people closest to her. The hidden palace had kept her safe from the world's cruelty, and in doing so, had left her entirely unprepared for the cruelty that lived inside a person who smiled at you every morning. Seraphina had served Elara for 6 years. She had braided her hair and brought her warm tea on cold nights and laughed at her jokes. She had done all of this while quietly, methodically resenting every single thing that Elara was. Why her? The question had lived in Seraphina's chest so long it had grown teeth. She began with whispers. Careful ones, precise ones, dropped like poison into the ears of the sailors hired to escort them to Soul Haven. She was raised in complete isolation. No court experience. No political understanding. What kind of queen would that make? Prince Selim deserves better. The seeds took root. On the third night at sea, when the sky was moonless and the water was black beneath them, Seraphina moved. Oren heard her coming. He spread his wings and screamed, a sound that tore through the dark like a blade, but 3 sailors were already there, and one had a net, and the sea was very deep and very cold and completely indifferent to injustice. Elara woke to silence and an empty perch. She searched the entire ship twice, her voice growing more desperate with each corridor. She gripped the railing at the stern and stared into the darkness behind them until her hands went numb. Oren, she whispered. Nothing answered. She arrived in Soul Haven with a face that revealed nothing and a chest that felt hollowed out. Seraphina moved fast. Before Elara had even changed from her travel clothes, the attendant had already sought a private audience with 2 senior court officials, forged letters in hand, rehearsed tears ready to fall. The true princess died at birth, Seraphina told them, voice trembling with manufactured grief. This girl is a servant, coached and dressed up by people who wanted access to the prince. I have documentation. By the time Elara was presented to the court, the room was already cold. Prince Selim stood at the center of it, and when his eyes found hers, she saw the conflict in them immediately, the pull of recognition fighting against the poison that had already been poured into his ear. Are you truly Princess Elara of Valdres? He asked carefully. I am, she said. Simply. Clearly. She lies, Seraphina said from behind her. The room stirred. Elara turned to face Seraphina slowly, and for one long moment, the 2 women simply looked at each other, one burning with triumph, the other with something quieter and far more dangerous. I have no documents, Elara said to the court, her voice steady. I have no forged letters or rehearsed speeches. I have only what I am. And I have learned, recently, that truth does not need a loud voice. It only needs time. Selim watched her. Something in him refused to let go. That night, alone in a cold guest chamber, Elara sat on the edge of a stone windowsill and looked out at a kingdom that did not know her name. She thought about going home. The thought was warm and tempting and cowardly, and she knew it. Then the doors of the great hall burst open below her window, and every head in the courtyard turned. Oren walked through them. Battered. One wing dragging. Feathers dulled by salt water and exhaustion. But walking, deliberate, unhurried, with the composure of someone who had crossed an ocean for exactly this moment. He entered the throne room without invitation and stopped before Prince Selim. The room was completely silent. I am Oren, he said, and his voice carried to every corner. And I have something to say. He named Seraphina. He described every whisper, every forged letter, every instruction given to every sailor on that ship. He described the net and the dark water and the exact words Seraphina had said while Elara slept. Selim turned to Seraphina slowly. Her composure finally collapsed. The sailors were brought forward. Each one confirmed every word. Seraphina's knees hit the floor before anyone asked her to kneel. I hated her, Seraphina wept. She had everything, and she didn't even want it. The room remained silent for a long time. Then Selim walked to Elara and bowed, not a formal court bow, but the kind a person gives when they genuinely mean it. I doubted you, he said quietly. Asterisk when I should have trusted what I already felt. Forgive me. Asterisk. Elara looked at him for a moment. You were lied to, she said. Asterisk, that is not the same as being wrong. Asterisk. His shoulders dropped with relief. Oren's feathers, slowly, unmistakably, began to glow gold again. They were married under an open sky at golden hour, the entire kingdom of Solhaven gathered in the courtyards below. Elara wore no crown during the ceremony, she asked for wildflowers instead, woven through her hair by Oren himself, who held each stem in his beak with extraordinary patience and refused all offers of help. After the celebration, in a quiet garden corner while music drifted from the great hall, Elara knelt beside him. You crossed an entire ocean, she whispered. I would cross 10, Oren said. She laughed, the wind chime laugh that merchants had once described in faraway places, and wrapped her arms carefully around his neck. Serafina was exiled the following morning. Elara had asked for mercy, and mercy was given. Selim watched his new queen grant grace to the woman who had tried to destroy her, and understood, in that moment, that no portrait, however skillfully painted, had come close to capturing who Elara actually was. They ruled Solhaven together for many long years, and the kingdom grew kinder under her influence, the way places do when the person at the center of them is genuinely good. Oren remained always at her side. His feathers never stopped glowing. And the hidden palace in the Meyerwood was opened at last, its gates thrown wide, its gardens made public, its white stone walls finally full of the laughter they had always been built to hold. Because some are hidden from the world not because they are weak, but because the world was not yet ready for them. Asterisk if this story stayed with you, give it a like, it helps more than you know. Subscribe for a new tale every week, and drop a comment below, was Serafina truly evil, or just deeply broken? I read every single one,